Ladies and gentlemen, folks and felines, we are back for another Hoss Chat, episode 5. We have made it. Somehow, I've done it, and we'll see how far this goes. We'll keep going. You keep listening, I'll keep making them. Today, we are joined by one of my favorite people. Ladies and gentlemen, Paola Chavez. Peep, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Nicholas?
Good. I'm going to preface this. I've known Paola for quite a while, and so we call each other different things in our names, because you can do that with people you've known for a while. Mm-hmm. So Peep's AKA is Peep. Paola's AKA is Peep. And Peep is going to probably call me Nicholas, Neek. You never know. That's why you tune into Hoss Chat to find out.
I like to switch it up.
Why not? So Peep, I think we were just talking about where we kind of want this episode to go.
Right.
As we're coming to you guys live from my truck right now in a parking lot by the forest, we were out and about, and I was like, let's do Hoss Chat. So we're doing it here. And in the corner of the parking lot, there is another car here. And I don't think they're filming a podcast. I think they're doing something else.
Might be a witness to something.
But anyway, we're not going to pay too much mind to that. Maybe go over a little bit like how we know each other, how we stumbled into each other's lives.
Yeah. So when I think about Nicholas and how we met, I think about grade 9 English class and how we got stuck beside each other to sit together.
We did.
And I remember I let out the biggest sigh because I just knew, that in there my life would be changed by meeting Nicholas. And yeah, we stayed friends ever since. We had a bunch of classes together. And yeah, we just met the whole gang. Met Johnny and all the other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
The rest is history. Yeah.
I got a Snapchat memory, I think that was today, of something from I don't even know what grade it was, but it was high school. 7 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
I get so shocked every single time I see those. It's insane. But yeah, that was how we met in school, and then we just kept it going ever since. It was nice because everyone went to Guelph together, to the University of Guelph. So we all stayed in touch. Yeah.
And my favorite part of knowing you, Peep, is probably, I'm not going to incriminate myself. I'll just say, probably shouldn't have been drinking it.
Yeah.
Peep has an older brother, Gabe. Gabe,
yes.
If you're listening, love you, brother. Tremendous. But we were younger and we couldn't legally obtain whiskey.
Yeah.
So I said to Peep one day, I said, hey, you think your brother could get us some whiskey? And he obliged.
Yeah.
He got us some whiskey.
He did it many times.
If you're a cop, no, he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
But he got me a little bit of whiskey, some Jim Beam.
Yes.
And
now you got the Beam Blues.
I got the Beam Blues. Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
But no, that was the first time I ever had, I think, whiskey. Jim Beam for sure was from your brother. Mm-hmm. And I still remember one time we were all on a camping trip. We were probably, gosh, I want to say first year university, something like that, that kind of age.
Yeah.
And we went camping, and your brother had gotten me a birthday gift because my birthday was the week before, and he got me a bottle of Havana Club rum.
Yes.
And I thought, hey, I've never had this.
Oh,
and
God.
I had the entire thing.
Yeah. I remember that because that's when we went to Cuba.
Yeah, and you guys,
we went right
cigar, I think.
2 days before your birthday or something.
Yeah, I remember that. That was, oh yeah, because were you even on the trip?
No.
Oh, you were in Cuba?
I was in Cuba, yeah.
I was in purgatory because I drank a whole thing of rum.
Yeah, Havana Club sneaks up on you. Those who know, because...
Isn't that wild? Because my sister is 16 now, and so she's kind of at that age of people are starting to party a little bit and doing stuff. And now we're old farts. Yeah. It feels like yesterday we just started.
Yeah, think about what we were doing at 16. Let me tell you what Nicholas wasn't doing at 16, okay?
Oh, this is going to be illegal.
We went to a party.
Yep.
And obviously people were drinking at this time. And I was having a beer. It was probably a shitty, warm beer. And I was like, Nicholas, do you want a sip? And at this point in time, Nicholas was not the man he is today.
I wouldn't even argue an 8.
And he was like, no, Paola, I don't want to do anything stupid. And I remember I still hold that against Nicholas to this day because after a sip of beer, he didn't even want to sip a beer.
I was mortified of everything back then.
And now look at him.
I know how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
But it's so weird, your introduction to that. I still remember going into a party. Oh my gosh, here's another one. This might incriminate you a little bit. This is a separate party. We went to a couple parties.
Yeah.
And, we were at this party, and I remember walking in, and I want to say it was I don't even know the age. I just remember going in, and people had the devil's lettuce I don't want to get in trouble from Spotify.
Adult lettuce, yeah.
Yes, adult lettuce on the table. And I was terrified. I thought the FBI was going to come through the window. And this is crazy. And we're at this party, and it was like a proper house party.
Yeah.
And the first one I'd probably been to at that time. And you're all hanging out. You're already kind of anxious because you're not really supposed to be doing half the stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
And then, cops are here.
Oh, yeah.
I know you remember this because you hung out with the cop for a bit. And...
yeah. I walked past him after I just puked my brains out.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, have a good night. And I was like, yeah, I'm trying not to throw up on your shoes, but yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the police came. And looking back now, like, what would have happened? They probably came in and been like, hey, pour out the booze, go home.
Yeah.
But we were all like, no, they're going to put us in a federal penitentiary.
Yeah, like, I'm going to have a criminal record now.
Yeah, so everybody runs out the back door. Except the few, like yourself, that couldn't quite make it.
Yeah.
Everybody runs out the back door, and they hit the fence, and there's a park, like a green space behind this fence. So they climb the fence, and they just run. They're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified, because there's cops in the front. I look around. I'll never forget looking around the side of the house, be like, I could just walk out the side. And I saw a squad car. I was like, nope. Yeah. So I tried to jump the fence, but I was rather portly back in those days.
Keep in mind, this is the time where Nicholas also would not drink a beer.
I wouldn't drink beer, but I could eat a cheeseburger.
So he was terrified. He thought he was going to jail.
I thought I was going to die. Yeah. They were going to shoot me. And so I tried to climb this fence, and I can't. I cannot for the life of me make it up this fence. And I'd like cry, like, help me. Every man for himself.
Yeah.
So I got up on the side, like there was like a smaller fence, if that makes any sense, running to the back fence. So it was a little bit, like maybe a foot shorter. Mm-hmm. So I got my chunky bum up onto that. And I remember kind of like I don't even know the word for it, like shimmying across the top of the fence like a cat. And I'm between the two houses, like I'm in kind of the in-between space. And I look over, in the house, next to the house we just kind of escaped from, there's a family eating dinner. Yeah. At their kitchen table. And here is this whiskey-fueled man up on top of the fence looking at him. I remember giving him a little wave and then running. I hopped up the fence and ran.
You know, the difference in, like, realities. Like, this family's having dinner. We're, like, running from the cops. Just about, like, died at this party. No, we had a couple nights like that.
Maybe one or two.
Yeah.
Maybe one or two.
Yeah.
But, no, I think that's safe to say, like, probably a lot of the... Well, I probably can't say that. I take that. I was going to say... Some of the craziest times we've ever had, we've all probably been in the same realm. The same kind of group. You know what I mean? Of people.
I agree. I would agree with that.
Some of them you guys can't hear because they're too much for this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to not be banned from Spotify.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get shipped back home.
Maybe one other day. Maybe one day there'll be like an X-rated podcast. R-rated.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Peep, aside from us drinking a lot... A great start.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about like what you went to school for, what you're working in right now?
Yeah. Okay, so I just graduated back in October. Finally got my diploma.
Whee!
Yeah, thank you. I graduated from an adult development program and a minor in psychology. So the ultimate goal is to go back to school and get a master's in social work. And yeah, we'll see where we go from there. But right now I'm just working at a daycare where I did my co-op at. And so far so good. I've been there for about 2.5 years now. And yeah, I really like it there. It's challenging, but you know, it keeps you on your toes. It's a very rewarding job at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, I have some friends that are like in teaching, and then obviously a couple, like you just said, like in child development and childcare. And the biggest thing I hear kind of mirrored is children today are significantly different than maybe even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's quite a drastic change. And I know obviously that sounds kind of like ignorant to be like, the kids are different these days.
Yeah.
Well, obviously times are different, but like in terms of how they interact with the teacher.
Yeah.
The interaction, or maybe not the teacher, but the caretaker, the person that's in the room, the EA, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I feel maybe this is just my experience being in school, but I was very much like, you respect your teacher, you respect your elder. You know, no ifs, ands, or buts. Now, these kids are ruthless. They are savage, and they do not care if they hurt your feelings. And it's crazy how they talk back. Like, they talk to me like I'm their homegirl from back in the day, you know?
Do you find kids, like, swearing?
Not at the daycare, but I did do a placement at a high school. And those kids, yeah, they did swear at me. I feared for my life every day. High schoolers are scary.
I remember, like, back in the day, you'd even say like, damn.
Yeah.
And you were out of there.
Yeah. No, it was insane. Like, the way that these kids are, I mean, like, obviously COVID, I believe, at least, COVID definitely have, like, an effect on the way these kids developed and, you know, their social skills and stuff like that. And, you know, it's hard to go back to, like, a routine that we've known all our lives that they never got to experience and kind of just being, like, thrown in there. And when you have, like, half the school population, like, struggling with all these, like, you know, social anxieties and social and behavioral issues and everything along that line, it becomes really difficult to get the proper support for every single child. So it's kind of like one of those things you have to remember when you're in any field, in any work environment, but especially with like kids and like people going through really hard developmental ages, that, you know, it's not their fault for being the way they are, I guess.
Right.
Like, you have to take into consideration
like
everything.
post-COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of people had, I mean, how many people do we know in our lives that are adults or allegedly adults and they haven't come back from that?
Yeah. Well, exactly right. And like, imagine like the whole like stereotype of like an iPad kid, like, very true. I've had kids like at the daycare yell at me when an ad comes on telling me to skip it. And I'm like, yeah, you're like 2 years old. Like, why do you know how to like skip an ad?
Well, isn't that like the paradox of it? It's like, I feel these kids these days are more interconnected than we probably ever were. Just because of social media, TikTok, technology. But at the same time, it's like, what breed of connection is that if you're just like, you know, you're on the phone.
Yeah.
You're texting, calling. And I don't mean to sound like the old man at the end of the road being like, get off that phone.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a different thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's a different upbringing than probably even we had.
For sure. And I mean, like, obviously kids are difficult. I get it. After a long day of work, the last thing you want to do is try and entertain a kid who's angry. But you can definitely tell whose parents just put on a screen and let their kids watch and who actually, like, connect with their child and, like, you know, try to build these social skills. And it becomes difficult when they are in, like, a preschool age, when they're about to go into school, I feel, because they don't know how to communicate with you. And it becomes difficult because you get frustrated, but, you know, you have to always remember they're just a kid, they're learning. But
I would call that natural birth control.
Yeah, no, for sure. If you ever want to realize why you don't want to have kids, just step into a daycare really quick.
Now, at this stage of your life, just because I'm just piggybacking on what you said.
Okay.
Do you think you would want to have kids ever?
Like, maybe very far into the future, not anytime soon for sure.
Right.
But, like, I think about it, like, I know ideally everybody wants to, like, take care of their own kids or, like, have family take care of their kids. Like, going into a daycare, one, is very expensive. And two, right now, I think our wait list is, like, spanning over 2025.
What?
Like,
really?
we have, like, probably a couple hundred families on the wait list. So
when you say, like, a couple hundred families, is that all ages of kids?
Yeah, all ages. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think mostly in high demand right now is toddlers, just because I think all the COVID babies and, you know, people are losing their chance of working from home and stuff. So going back to the office or whatever, it becomes more difficult. So I try to think about that. Like, how would I manage if I couldn't get into a daycare? How would I figure that out? And, like, stuff like that. So it does give you a lot to think about when you're just, like, even planning your future and, like, with your significant other, like, different jobs and, like, who's going to pick up one day and who's going to pick up the other day and stuff like that. And, like, you see some of these parents, like, mom does everything, or you see dad always picks up and drops off and stuff like that. So I don't know. It gives you a lot to think about in terms of, like, balance and, I don't know, I guess planning your future. But yeah, for right now, I think I'm good. I think I'm good without having kids. I have too many at work to deal with.
It's like, I don't know. I've always thought, and I still think that I do, not that I think, I know I want kids.
Okay.
But it's like you're saying, it's that weird thing of, like, not now.
Yeah.
Obviously not now. I got other things to do. But it's that thing of, like, as time goes on and you know, learn more about the world and how things work, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, do I want to bring somebody else into this?
For sure. And I see that debate all the time of people being like, oh, like, I think it's a poor excuse to be like, the world is such a shitty place. Why would you want to
Did you swear?
bring a person, like, a baby into this world? But I think that's a perfectly valid excuse. Like, I know people argue that against, like, climate change and global warming and stuff, but I think that's a very valid reason of why not having kids. And
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it depends on your experience too, right? Like,
Right.
I've talked to a lot of people that are very, haven't probably had great upbringings.
Yeah.
So their response to that is like, why would I want to, inflict that on somebody else?
Exactly.
But somebody, I don't know. I mean, I've always looked at it in the way of like, I can't say that I don't agree with that whole thing of like bring somebody into this because I can't complain. I'm blessed to have like quite a great childhood and upbringing and everything in the life that I do have. But it's kind of like, I don't know, it's such a fine line because I think outwardly when you're happy with life, you're like, oh, that's a very nihilistic way of thinking about things.
For sure.
But then, I don't know, it does make sense. You're bringing a breathing individual into reality.
Exactly. And like, I mean, we see like, I think the youngest we can have at the daycare is 3 months. As long as they can take a bottle, like they're good to come into the daycare. It's like, I just can't imagine leaving like my 4-month-old, but it's like when push comes to shove, if you have to do it, you have to do it. So it's kind of crazy. I don't know. It really makes me think. I don't know.
Well, and then there's that phenomenon too of like the nanny kids.
Yeah.
That they're not maybe per se, maybe the parents aren't so involved, regardless of whatever the situation is. But then there's, this other secondary figure parenting them.
For sure.
And then they kind of maybe don't align with the parents.
Yeah. And I mean, I see these kids a lot longer than they see their parents. We have really long hours at the daycare I work at. So, when you have a kid who's there from like right when we open to right when we close, like that's a good almost 12 hours. So, they go home, they eat, they maybe have a bath, and then they go to bed and, rinse and repeat the next day. So, yeah, it becomes difficult. You see kids get really attached to certain, like, ECEs and stuff, like early childhood educators and stuff. But, yeah, I don't know. It becomes interesting when you see some kids not wanting to leave the daycare. And they kind of want to stay back, or they want to hang out a little bit longer, or just, like, completely refuse to go home. I don't know, it makes you wonder, but... Yeah,
I mean, it's such a unique, I'm sure, look in human psychology.
Oh, yeah.
Even just being with, like, kids of these, like, developmental age.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you see everything. And I'm sure you can probably read between the lines a little bit, because you've been around a lot of people, and you can kind of understand, I don't know, certain things in certain people.
Yeah, we've had not a lot of cases, but we've had some cases where we did have to be in contact with certain... higher authorities
services.
Yeah, and yeah, it's crazy to see how more common you think it is, and like it's just like people you don't expect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it really makes you think. It keeps you on your toes a lot. But yeah, I really like working at the daycare. I've learned a lot, and I think it ties well into what I want to do with my future career. At the end of the day, and yeah, it stresses me out, but I wouldn't trade the experience I had for anything in the world.
Is a bonus of working there the food? Do they have good food? Or do they not? They don't have food?
No, they do have food. We provide morning snack, lunch, and afternoon snack.
Can I come there?
Yeah. I'll bring you a sample one day.
Thank you.
These kids eat extremely well. Let me tell you, they have to meet ministry requirements for the menu.
So you have to by weight. I was like, damn.
So each menu has to have like the 5 food groups or 4 food groups or whatever the hell it is. And, yeah, they have like Dijon mustard salmon and sun-dried tomato chicken, pasta. That was today's lunch. Bomb. Lasagna, beef tacos, like everything. And these kids don't eat anything. They eat their fruit and their bread. And that's it.
I had a nap for lunch today.
Yeah, literally.
You're talking about sun-dried tomatoes.
Every ECE who works at a daycare where they provide food knows that you bring your own containers on a good lunch and you fill it up.
Bring me a Tupperware.
Yeah, because...
Would you say... So, like, we were kind of talking about, like, the kids that you work with.
Yeah.
It's an interesting look into the human brain because of the behavior contrast. What about the people you work with?
Oh, my.
And the way they interact with the kids.
Let me plan how I'm going to say this.
Your future depends on it.
Yeah, let me not incriminate myself here. I work with a very good, interesting mix of women. I only work with women. There's no men that work at the daycare.
Is that like a policy, or that's just
no,
happened?
That's just how it works out. We have hired men in the past, and it just hasn't worked out. They find other jobs, and I don't know. But it's interesting, to say the least. I think there's a very wide range of ages that also play. You have like older ECs, and then you have ones who are like university co-op students, like how I started. And to see them interact with each other and how I interact with them, it's quite interesting. You know, there's some people you got to stay away with, you know, keep your distance from. You don't only say hi and bye.
Yeah.
And then there's like people who are like one of my like really good friends that I cherish to this day and have built a really good relationship with.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to like being just in education, like kindergarten to throughout college, university.
Right.
And sometimes, like, personally in my life, I can't really think of anything too wild that, you know, a teacher's done to me per se, but you definitely hear things. Or teachers will, you know, they'll say something to another student and you overhear it, or they say something to you and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh yeah, we have gotten, in our staff meetings, we have a staff meeting every month, and we have been told to, you know, the walls are thin and people hear what you're saying. We've had a couple parents complain about things that are being said, and yeah, kids repeat everything. Kids are parrots. Like, if you say anything bad, they will repeat it.
Oh, and could you imagine? I mean, if I had a kid and he was, or he, she, whatever, was in like daycare, and I heard something was I'd show up like a bat out of hell.
Well, yeah, right. And like no one can blame them. Like, at the end of the day, like, you know, it's the safety of your child, and you think you're entrusting them with these people. And thank God at the daycare that I'm at, I have not witnessed any like cases of abuse or, you know, neglect or anything like that. Thank God. But, you know, you hear these horror stories and it really makes you wonder. You know, I wonder how these like coworkers felt. Like, you know, I worked with this person for, you know, X amount of years and I never thought they'd be capable of doing this.
Well, I'm sure there's probably a decent turnaround rate.
Oh,
because some people probably just aren't fit to be around kids.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think being an ECE is a very like glamorous job, and it's just like, oh, it's just like babysitting, like it's fine. It's a very testing job, and me not even being an ECE, I'm surprised I've lasted this long at this job. But yeah, we've had major turnaround rates. Right now we're like a little bit understaffed, so it becomes a little frustrating.
If you're listening, they're hiring.
Yeah, exactly. Send me your resume, I'll send it through. But yeah, it has a huge turnover rate. And I think that's just like being an ECE in general, working at a daycare in general. I think any daycare you'll go to, you'll see a huge turnover rate because it's a job that gets burnt out very quickly. You get overwhelmed and overstimulated very quickly.
Right.
And I think you have to find really healthy ways of coping with it. And, you know,
well, I can only imagine how much of a nightmare that was during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
With regulation, trying to make kids like follow things and make instructors follow things and everything. I'm sure it's just... I'm sure you probably there, and I'm sure there's probably still policy in place of some kind.
Oh yeah, like in terms of like sickness policies, like if a kid is ill, they have to be gone for 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is. But yeah, during COVID, I started working there May of 2021, so we still had COVID policies in place at that time, and we had to wear a mask and goggles. So like for the first like year I worked there, like these kids didn't even know what I looked like, because we were only allowed to take our masks off when we were eating in the classroom or drinking water. So I think that also tied in with like the whole developmental like issues, I guess. Like a lot of kids, they don't, you know, kids who can't hear very well, they need that like lip reading, but with the mask you can't really do that. So yeah, it became very testing. And I mean, I only knew the daycare before as a practice with COVID. So now that, you know, COVID restrictions have lifted significantly, seeing how the daycare is now, it's like night and day. Like, it's completely different. And I think it's much more rewarding for the kids. I think they feel more open to do things and they feel more connected with staff than they did when I first started working there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can't even imagine what the whole industry has faced.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Peep, we're kind of at the end here. I think we should wrap her up. Yeah. Thank you for being on Hoss Chat.
Thank you
I'm
for
sure
having
you will be
me.
on again.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the part of the show where I'll, you know, if you have like dates or anything coming up, but you're not a musician. So
no.
Is there anything you want to kind of plug, to chat about quick, say, threaten?
Not really. I don't know. I don't have really any signing off words. Do what makes you happy. If you want to work at a daycare, hit me up. I can help you get a job.
Nice.
But yeah, hope everyone enjoyed hearing us blab on.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
This Saturday, or actually this will be coming out the week after. I'm being silly. November November 17th, I'll be at Riverhead Brewing in Kingston. The week after that, I'll be at Allura Brewing. And then we're into December. I'm at the Ottawa Christmas Market this year. And we also got a really cool Christmas show coming up that I haven't announced yet. But I'll announce that soon because I have a meeting about it tomorrow. So after that's approved, that'll be announced. But yeah, we'll see you next week for another Hoss Chat.